The United States has obviously been paying close attention to the conflict in Ukraine over the last 2.5 years and the conflict between Israel and Hamas. And electronic warfare plays a role clearly in both those conflicts. What lessons on the role that EW plays in modern warfare has the Pentagon learned from observing what's going on in Ukraine and the Middle East? And how does it differ for a military that faces a modern force like Russia's versus lower tech militant groups such as Hamas?
Yeah, I'll start. I think the biggest takeaway is that our near peer adversaries, and then elements like Hamas, they do have formidable EW capabilities, right? And so we have to just be prepared to have to expect that we're going to operate in a contested, congested, and then even a denied EMS environment. So we have to plan for our sensors to be able to operate in those conditions. And it gets back to the kind of layered approach, but it's also, understanding adversary TTPs. And we also have to realize that it cannot just be the material solution, right? It has to be across the the .mil PF when it comes to training, TTPs, things along those lines. And in the end, it's really about making sure that our systems, our soldiers, and our commanders have that kind of freedom of maneuver within the EMS, and making sure we're denying that adversary that same. And you have to look at it across all three portions from an EW standpoint: electronic support, electronic protect, and electronic attack, right? And, as we kind of look at that, we also have to ensure that from an acquisition standpoint on our side of the house, making sure that we're agile enough to be able to adapt, as threats emerge, to maintain pace with the threat. But then we have to expand that out too, right? It can't just, like I said, it can't be just a material solution. It's how we're informing the rest of the institution to do the things they need to do, like training, as an example. And it goes back to that agility. We call it organizational agility in my PEO, making sure we're prepared to pivot to whatever's thrown at us. Because you're right. Adversaries, you're seeing it in Ukraine or in Europe with the Houthis. The implementation of what I characterize it as sometimes as non-exquisite capabilities in mass against exquisite capabilities, and sometimes that mass can be quite overwhelming. So we have to be able to understand that, how they're acquiring things. A lot of it's cheap, a lot of it's attritable, and then so it's how we adjust across our battle space and across our TTPs, and how we fight, how our CONOPS. So it's just one of those things that, from an Army standpoint, we're just looking at it differently. We're realizing we have to build essentially an EW arsenal across the landscape to be able to go at these different types of threats.
Yeah, outstanding. And the only pylons I'd add there is from my catbird seat is that, we're in the spectrum. We're in an area of perpetual novelty, and our adversaries are going to be able to move and change and be agile on the spectrum just as much as we are. And so that really drives us, in my view, is three really critical pieces. The first one is interoperability amongst our weapon systems. They have to be able to talk to each other. And so if we fight a near peer tonight, we're going to fight with the capabilities we have today. And so how do we make the systems that we have today more interoperable and able to share information